Ed, it's going to be a half an hour for Bob Armstrong's talk. And Bob, I think you're on.
Okay. Is the screen visible?
It is visible at this time.
And in particular, when I hit F11, you can read that it's 1203. Because it's surprising, let me hit F1, which notice this has got the structure of essentially a working window and then a result window. And actually, most important two keys are F6. Whenever you see me something happen, it's generally because I'm hitting F6. And F11 here and F12, the inserting of time, this is what matters when you're in court. And that's the level of too much. And the one sort of special purpose key is I've programmed Control F9 to open any URL under the cursor. In any case, I gave a talk I just split off this presentations windows from my old work log because these are becoming useful in themselves. And interestingly, you can go back and see the history of this. Essentially, it was in March. Let me go and Control F9 that. And hopefully this, you see that it brought up the window from back then. But this great YouTube on this incredibly minimal computer. But it has made particularly this third one, but let me first go and go to the first design principle from that. Whoa, I got them in the wrong order. Define design principle number one was use a high level language. And they actually, on this incredibly minimal little machine, implemented matrix algebra because, of course, they were calculating their path to descent to the moon. But the other principle, no, restart on failure. This is the thing for the thing that has sort of been a real problem, and you go back to see my notes and so forth in my blog back in the beginning of the year, was okay, now some people are starting to use CoSy. The thing that has gotten to the top of priorities is to eliminate bombs. And I was going into trying to understand the exception handling and so forth inside Riva 4th. And then I watched this YouTube and it said, geez, I can just go and make, change the loop in the down over here. I'm not going to bother, but just fix the loop out at the DOS level to restart and essentially checkpoint where I am. But I do that anyway every single time that I execute something. It actually is saving a copy of this dictionary list to a file. So it's backing it up every single time you see me execute something. And one of the things is, CoSy is why I've put so much of my life into this, is that it's in the most powerful and now being open and forth, most flexible language. And it's not a toy. It's not nostalgia. CoSy, it is an open vocabulary in fourth, implementing a reference counted list of lists, dynamic general array structures. And in terms of an environment, it's a time-stamped, intelligent note paper log. So I have time-stamped notes of what I do, where the major problem is for me to think of writing down the right thing. Because it's all text, you can retrieve it on the basis of any fragment you can remember. On the fourth hardware end, you all, I mean, that's the thing is, I'm coming from the APL world, but the thing is, you all are the community that has direct building from the chip up, building from a chip language, even laying out the structures in silicon to get off the ground on that level. But evolving from APL, Ken Iverson via K, Arthur Whitney, which are the highest level languages, it is vastly more flexible being an open fourth than any previous APL. And it leapfrogs the mass market languages like Python, which clearly Python and JavaScript and whatever. JavaScript has a unique position being an interface with the web. But these other languages, I don't have time for. I put it that way. Nor does somebody who's really running a company or something like that. One thing that should be pointed out that it is trivial to write a fourth at the APL, K, and CoSy level. The fourth level matrix concepts are, I'll be blunt, there's 70 years and a number of geniuses behind APL and K, which have evolved from the notation, first via Ken Iverson's brilliant generalizations and linearizations of the notation for array algebra. And then Arthur Whitney simplifying that to lists of lists, which actually is John Backus in his Turing Award speech years ago pointed out. But in a Facebook discussion on fourth language for the 21st century, there was a discussion of the value of these languages for doing arrays. Now, and one of the things, just to give a demo, it came up, okay, looking at fourth or looking at K and APL, it looked like it was less good for matrices than some other more direct languages like MATLAB, for instance. But one of the things that came up is, okay, this is the definition for an identity, to make an identity matrix. And I went and used this. One of the things is the 4, when I typed that in and read the fourth, that is at the x86, that goes on the x86 stack, and it takes this underlined I to convert it to a CoSy list, and then IM. So that's one of the things is even this text that you're looking at is actually a node in a list that follows exactly the same rules as any numeric lists. And one of the things that the concept, the subtlety of the ideas in APL and K, which make them such that their market is the core of the global financial world. And that's is notions like atomic apply, which the notion of an atomic function in K and in CoSy, essentially you have lists of lists of lists, and in CoSy, because it's modulo indexing, they're actually all rings of rings of rings, if you will. But the apply operators, which make it so that when you write down A plus B in APL or K, it means apply that to all corresponding leaves. And these are the sorts of well, the atomic apply operators, and you'll see that these are recursive functions that go out to the leaves and then apply whatever it is the verb is that needs to be applied between corresponding leaves. So that's what makes it possible to map, for instance, a differential. This is my particular interest. If I really, and you can see the work I've done on essentially battling the Al Gore warming anti-science. But the concepts like this atomic apply is what allow you to apply a differential to every voxel in a planetary model in a single line. The market coming from the APL world, the market I'm most interested in is the market which sucked me down to Manhattan, which is again a global financial center. It is the two most obsessed places I've ever been, I think, in the world, is Manhattan, where it's about money, also about art, but mainly about money. And out there in Silicon Valley, where it's all about putting intelligence into silicon. I mean, I've never really, two communities that have a underlying obsession. In any case, my real interest in market is the direct personal support for owners, investors, and high net worth individuals in their personal use of CoSy for dealing with their everyday business of life. Example, not just Don Golding and his creation of Forth Systems controlling hardware, space hardware, all the hardware. I mean, this is definitely the domain that I worked to connect the APL to open the entire spectrum all the way down to the machine. But not just Don and look, you know, whatever projects or whatever this may accelerate, but also those making the decisions controlling the dollar flows, because that's the world that I came into, and not so it's not just building the space platforms, it's also going and directly supporting these individuals who are again running the corporation. And they're very bright individuals, and most hardware or most software systems don't appreciate that level of brilliance. So one of the things is in a sense, the vision programming, going and making this link all the way from the brilliance of Iverson to the brilliance of Moore is largely complete. But what you see here is just, you know, in all of this is just the creation of me building on this Riva Forth. Future evolution is now, you know, this just opens up the domain. So my focus from now on must be at the business level, clients on one side, development programmers on the other, because there's both. I mean, there's so much. There's an infinity. You can see in things I've written. There's the infinity of what I don't know is well, infinite relative to the finite amount that I understand. And for instance, and this is this is in this IUP interface out of Brazil, freeware, but the interfacing through sockets and with a web browser, which is clearly Ting's environment, for instance, and with Brad's know how to do this stuff, and I have, I don't know, and I don't have the time to learn. But the just general interface, and also being set up as a web server, so someone can have the CoSy environment build and forth, open and forth, on whatever their device is, they're interfacing with the cloud, aka time sharing. But there's a lot to be done within CoSy itself, and because all of this is just, for instance, if I'm not going to go and bomb this, but if this bomb did come back to more or less right where it is, but I haven't gone and refined getting it down to be exactly where it is, and I haven't even extended that checkpointing to this, my state window, which is more like a super menu of lines that are useful. Yeah, enormous number of, I mean, there's just an awful lot within the system, and there's a tremendous amount where all you got to do is look at the sentence or a couple of sentences that I use to create, to facilitate something, and go and essentially apply them in other places or clean them up a little or whatever. But this is something like one of the things that I think of. Arthur Whitney, of course, who was coming out of the Union Bank of Switzerland and Morgan Stanley and so forth, and creating K, had just a few programmers with him, and like Joel Kaplan, who went on to co-found 1010 Data, which they then sold for $500 million. Steve Apter is a brilliant programmer, and that's what's needed. So one of the things is, in putting together a business plan, got to look at matching Silicon Valley dollars for talent, and so in any case, I can now start putting together a business plan, particularly in what costs are for first year, first months, and so forth. Anyway, I now answer my phone, and I actually have added my phone number to the signature on my email signature. So I'm looking now to put together the cash flowing ecosystem between people who are can find CoSy useful to accelerate their and integrate their personal information environments, including mailing lists and in particular including any level accounting that they may need to do. It's one of the traditional uses of APL and K is to essentially, I mean, I know at Morgan Stanley this was very much the case, and what they did is to integrate the entire information flows from all sorts of different systems and currencies and so forth. Sandy Steyer, who was the co-founder of K, with, or I mean, of 1010 data with Joel Kaplan, described CoSy as a cockpit, and that's my greatest interest, is to create the ultimate cockpit environment for the global entrepreneur fighter pilot. Okay, and I'll got it done there in 20 minutes. Open for questions. I wanted to make a presentation that would get across the where the status of things right now.
If I wanted to get started with this, what would step one? Where would I read a list of
Thank you.
steps to download?
Well, one of the things
Light the fuse.
as of I will get all of this updated. Actually, let me go here first, of course. Go to CoSy. And I think that actually now I'm starting to get relatively happy with this front page. But one of the things that I actually, when I was reading through, I was thinking, okay, that's not too bad in laying out the fundamentals of the language, which is essentially fourth. Well, it is fourth. But one of the things is, and this is something, the market I'm going after are people who have never heard of GitHub and don't want to, and it's far too complex. Furthermore, it's nowhere nearly as powerful for dealing with things as CoSy is itself. But essentially, all of CoSy, code is all here. One of the ones that's kind of up, that's not the one I was thinking. That's auxiliary stack. But you'll see the whole vocabulary, everything is here. Oh, and alt StackOps. This is one that's just generally useful. Instead of dupe and drop, and there's a comment recently about, okay, never can remember minus wrote from wrote. This is all a picture vocabulary for all the StackOps. But that's just to point out, that's how direct access to the whole code you have. I guess I got it over here, yeah. So one of the things is ask me anything, but like I say, I will have this all uploaded by tomorrow. I have, if you just click the top, I have really the links to, well, this page, and there's a sense in which this is very Forthian. I mean, this is the essence. But I have a whole lot, all the history of YouTubes and this in Euroforth. I don't know that I've added Euroforth yet. Not. But one thing that actually is useful comparing is comparing doing what you get in a few minutes time in going through Hello World in CoSy versus even getting Python ready to run. And one of the yeah, and the only two language environments in both of them. I mean, Chuck and Ken were at vastly different ends of the computing spectrum, but both of them demanded, the only way they could work is to have an interactive environment where they could write down a line and execute it. And you could define a function. Actually, Chuck was ahead of Ken in being able to write down a function in a single line. Write down, define a verb in just a single line. no, that's these in-between languages, you know, you got to do boilerplate. And one of the things is you've lost most of these people don't have the time for that, you know. Yeah.
Bob,
Okay.
what I would
Oh.
enthusiastically request is two things. One is maybe a list of 5 or some number of steps to get started, and title it Getting Started. And, you know, go here, download this, try this, and then step 5 is to learn more, go to this, or
Oh,
here
boy.
are some examples, or whatever. And I strongly encourage you to have that available, maybe on your homepage or whatever, in a box that says Getting Started, because that's always been my my thing. I know it with Python or Perl or similar things. There are, you know, a dozen places that come up that look good, that say, okay, getting started with Perl, or getting started with Python, or getting started with
Well,
C double plus, because
this
it's what?
one of the things to me, I think Leo Brody's starting forth is one of the, I mean, truly great introductions to any technical subject. And also one of the things is, I think that Chuck, in many ways, you need a second person or an outside view of something to go and really be able to understand what it's sort of, again, it's one of these problems of self-reference. But boy, and Chuck had Elizabeth, and I think that was a major thing. Arthur Whitney had, well, Ken Iverson had Aidan Falkoff. Arthur Whitney had, well, one, his wife, Jeanette, but also Joel Kaplan as being his interface, you know, sort of like, yeah, and that's but boy, you know, I know you're right, and actually you're also going and addressing directly something that I know that I'm particularly weak on.
Okay. The other thing, I said 2 things. The other thing is that in October, I'd like you to give a 20-minute run in that, through that 5-step. Okay, let me show you me doing this, then me doing that,
and
then
let
me
me
doing
ask,
step 3.
yeah,
And you
and
want to
and let me ask for people to tell me what they need to, you know, the view to go and you know where their sticking points are. Like, I
okay.
think there is a nature of this that is like a lot of mathematics, where you have this object. It's the understanding the elephant. You know, the blind man understanding an elephant. First, you grab something that's long and skinny and so forth, and try to figure out what the beast looks like. And that, yeah.
Since we're going to stop the recorder in a couple of minutes and go to bonus extra time, I'd like to ask, are there any other questions or comments for Bob?
So I have a comment. I know that in the past, Jeff Raskin had created a textual environment, first for the Apple II using Swift card, then for a more graphical environment called the Canon Cat. It seems that CoSy is a numerical answer to the text-heavy interfaces that Jeff Raskin has created in the past. Do you foresee that? Do you foresee that these two worlds could unite somehow in the future?
You know, one thing, the notion of the term textual user interface. I know what's his name? Graham, whatever, it was a VC guy, is used years ago, actually to describe CoSy, as it was years ago. But one of the things is, this is why I want to get the thing interfaced through standard, if you will, web browser, standard interface sort of a thing, which is, again, some stuff I just don't understand. But I want Unicode. I want something what is directly competitive with what Python has with the Jupyter Notebook, but one that is essentially more interactive, more about actually working through. I mean, Iverson's original notion was APL as a tool of thought. That was the name of his Turing speech, for among other things. But that's it. And the APL thing, because it was so good at crunching millions and then billions of stock transactions, that became its market. But my interest has always been, as it was from what got me to learn APL when I had to learn multidimensional algebra and geometry, is it as a tool of thought, as this individual interface where essentially, you can follow your thoughts. You can, if you know how to write it down, it's done. But it isn't just a thing where you're in this concrete wall, this well-padded concrete walled kindergarten of those icons and those menu choices that are put in front of you, that you can write down, that it is linguistic. And that was a point that one of the guys here at the this one, on the Euroforth conference mentioned. I made a comment about that. Essentially, it is supplying a TUI, a linguistic interface, but one that is capable of expressing mathematics as or more succinctly than in any text. And open on the fourth level, you can see mapping that to a field of fourth processors in FPGA. Or, you can, it is totally open, and it isn't a matter of recompiling, it's word by word compilation. It's yeah. So we may be running overtime now. Yeah, we're 2 minutes over.
I think I stood a timer, and everybody will tell you that I'm not a sucker in timing talks and pulling the hook on folks. Thank you for your patience with my eccentricities in that regard. So the start of the recording is ceremonial and market. To plug, we just say good night to you YouTubers. We're here most every month. We try to be, and on the fourth Saturday of the month, we're having a Zoom conference. You can go to our meetup. If you can't find our meetup, I'm at Forther, F-O-T-H-E-R at comcast.net, and I can point you at it. With regard to the November and December meetings, they are on the third Saturday of the month. Fourth day, our international big annual event. This on Zoom will be on the third Saturday of November. And I will have to into meetup.com and schedule that in the near future. So with that, Brad, if you will stop the recording at this time.